You know, we all want the best, the biggest profit, the fastest way to get somewhere, the strongest possible design. But let's be real, in the real world, we never have unlimited resources. We're always up against some kind of limit. So how do you find the absolute best result when you just can't have everything? Well, it turns out there's this beautifully elegant mathematical idea that shows us exactly how to do it.
This right here is the big question we're going to tackle. And yeah, it might sound a little philosophical, but it's actually a puzzle with a very concrete, incredibly powerful solution. It's something that's used every single day to run our world, from economics all the way to engineering.
Okay, let's dive into this. The problem always has two parts. On one side, you've got your goal. That's what you want to maximize or minimize. Think profit, strength, efficiency. And on the other side, you've got a constraint. That's the rule you have to play by. A limited budget, a fixed amount of stuff to build with. This tension, this push and pull, is right at the heart of pretty much every optimization problem out there.
Now, to really get our heads around this, we are not going to start with rocket science. Nope. We're going to start with something way simpler. A fence. So, picture this. It's the classic problem. You have a specific amount of fencing, let's say 100 feet of it. That's your constraint. You can't use more. Your goal? To maximize the area inside that fence. I mean, you could make a super long, skinny rectangle, or you could make a perfect square. Which shape gives you the most space for your dog to run around in?
And what we've just described here is a perfect example of what's called constrained optimization. This slide just gives it a formal name. Our function is the area we want to make as big as possible, and our limit is that fixed length of fence. We're just trying to find the best possible outcome while following a very strict rule.
Now, you could try to solve this with a whole bunch of algebra, sure, but the real aha moment, the big breakthrough, comes when we turn this problem into a picture that involves a mountain.
Okay, I want you to imagine that the two things you can change, the length and the width of your rectangle, are like coordinates on a map, and the height at any point on that map represents the area you get. So we can actually picture this as a smooth 3D mountain. Your goal is simple. Just climb to the highest possible peak on this area mountain.
But, and this is the big but, remember, you don't have unlimited fencing. That constraint, the fixed perimeter, acts like a path that's been drawn right onto the side of our mountain. You aren't free to explore the whole landscape. You are literally forced to walk along this one specific path. And this totally reframes the problem, right? We're no longer looking for the highest point on the entire mountain. Instead, we're looking for the highest point we can possibly get to while staying on our designated path. And the key to finding that exact spot comes from something you've definitely seen on any hiking map: contour lines. They're just those loops drawn on the mountain that connect all the points that are at the exact same height. And this is where it all clicks. As you walk along your path, you're crossing these contour lines, going up, up, up. The absolute highest point you can possibly reach will be where your path just kisses one of these contour lines and then starts to turn back down. At that one single perfect moment, your path and the contour line are tangent. They just touch, and for an instant, they point in the exact same direction. Okay, let's bring in just a tiny bit of math to make this solid. At any point on our mountain, the direction of the steepest, most direct climb uphill has a name. It's called the gradient. And here's the cool thing about the gradient. It always points at a perfect 90-degree angle to the contour line at that exact spot. So let's connect the dots here. We said at our highest point, our path is parallel to the contour line. And we just learned that the gradient is always perpendicular to the contour line. Well, it follows that the gradient must also be perpendicular to our path at that one optimal spot. This geometric alignment, that's the key that unlocks the whole thing. This visual insight is fantastic. It's really intuitive, but how do we turn it into an actual answer, a number? Well, thankfully, we can translate this geometry into a single, powerful equation using a little bit of what feels like mathematical magic. We do it with something called the Lagrange multiplier, which we represent with the Greek letter lambda. You can honestly just think of lambda as a magic number. It's the number that connects our goal with our constraint. It's the perfect scaling factor that gets them to line up. And as we'll see, it's more than just a trick. This number actually tells us something really important. It's the missing link. So that whole core idea that at the best possible spot, the two gradients are just scaled versions of each other is captured in this one single beautiful equation. The gradient of our goal function f
is equal to lambda times the gradient of our constraint function g. That's it. And using it is actually a surprisingly straightforward process. First, you just write out that gradient equation. Second, you add in your original constraint. You can't forget the total length of your fence. And third, you just solve those equations together and boom, you get the exact dimensions for your rectangle and the value of lambda.
Okay, so this is a really neat trick for fences, but why should you actually care? Because this idea applies to almost any decision you could ever make where you have to deal with a trade-off. Your fence can be anything: time, money, energy, even the fundamental laws of physics. I mean, this tool is everywhere. Economists use it to model how we maximize happiness or utility on a limited budget. And in that case, lambda isn't just some magic number. It actually tells you exactly how much more happiness you'd get for $1 extra. They call it the shadow price. Engineers use this to design the lightest, strongest bridges. It's even fundamental to how machine learning algorithms learn. It's a real game changer. And the real-world value is just staggering. I mean, just take global supply chains. The whole process of optimizing shipping routes, warehouse inventories, and manufacturing schedules, those are all massive constrained optimization problems. And solving them is estimated to create over $1.2 trillion in economic value. This math literally makes our world go round. So, at the end of the day, Lagrange multipliers give us a framework, a language, for making the smartest possible choice when we're faced with limits. It's a universal tool for navigating trade-offs and finding the absolute best solution that is actually possible. I think this quote just perfectly sums it all up. It's not about getting everything you could ever dream of. It's about finding that perfect, elegant compromise between your biggest ambition and the reality of the constraints you're working with.
And that really just leaves us with a final thought to take away. We all live with constraints: a limited amount of time in the day, a finite budget, a certain amount of energy we can spend. So think about it. Within those limits that you have, what is the most important goal you are trying to optimize? This mathematical idea, it gives us a really powerful new way to look at that very, very human question.